Hello, Ravens fans, and welcome to another edition of the Spotlight Ravens series. I'm Aaron Schneider, the Sports Information Director at Anderson University, and joining us is our head men's golf coach and assistant men's basketball coach, Carter Collins. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, first to get things started, let's kick things off and talking about where you're from.
So I grew up in Michigan. I'm from kind of a smaller town called Fowlerville, Michigan, which is kind of mid-Michigan area, in between Lansing and Detroit. So been a Michigan resident up until the last 4 years now, where I've been at AU.
All right. So tell us a little bit about how you got into your sports.
So basketball wise, basketball was through my dad. My dad was a high school varsity coach when I was growing up as a kid, so I was around basketball quite a bit through him. And then golf side of things was more over on my mom's side of the family. So my grandpa was big into it. I have a couple uncles who are former golf pros. So both sports, I guess, kind of got involved through family. Basketball through my dad, and then golf was kind of more on my mom's side of things.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about your college experience.
Yeah, so I went to Hope College, which is over on the west side of Michigan in Holland. Both of my parents had went there as well, so it was something that I'm familiar with. And yeah, went to Hope. I was at Hope. I was a psychology and communications double major.
Okay, and then talk a little bit about what you did with the basketball program there.
Yeah, so at Hope, I played on the JV team my freshman year, and then kind of got involved in coaching after that. So the next 3 years, I was a student assistant coach, was working a lot with the JV team and also a little bit with the varsity team. I always kind of knew that as soon as my playing career ended, whenever that would be, that I kind of wanted to get into coaching immediately. And so that was kind of the next step. So was definitely thankful to have been involved with the Hope program at that time.
Okay. So you graduated from Hope in 2017, and then right after college came to AU, and you've been here since. Tell a little bit about that.
So the first thing after Hope for me was I came down here to AU and was the graduate assistant coach. So graduate assistant basketball coach. So I was coaching basketball the first 2 years, and then also getting my master's program here at AU. I got my master's in business administration. And then since that point, the last 2 years since then, I've been the full-time assistant men's basketball coach. So that takes us up to the last 4 years since I graduated college. And then this coming year will be my first as the head men's golf coach here as well.
All right. So so coming out of college, what kind of hooked you in terms of where you knew you wanted to at least at that time start your career at AU?
Yeah, AU. I got connected to AU through Coach Handy's relationship with a couple of the college coaches that I had worked with at Hope. Coach Handy grew up in Holland, so they had actually played high school basketball together. And in finding out more about AU, I was pretty drawn to it immediately. It's a very similar place to Hope, actually, in terms of they're both kind of smaller Christian liberal arts colleges, Midwest. So immediately, kind of in starting my time at AU, I kind of felt like I fit right in, like I was at home, because it was so similar to what I had already just spent 4 years at Hope.
All right. So, and then tell us a little bit about what you're looking forward to, at least as far as this new dual role for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think I'm kind of at that point in my career to where I'm ready to take the next step and become a head coach. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to do that through golf. Golf is, been right up there next to basketball in terms of my favorite sports. So I'm excited to get rolling with the guys here in a couple weeks, and start to build the program not only this coming year, but for the future years ahead as well. So I'm very excited.
All right, going into the next segment of questions. First, who is your inspiration and why?
I think my inspiration has always been my parents. Two people who have, I've been very lucky to have had them as parents. And not only that, but they share a lot of the same interests as I do. So I've been able to kind of view them, not only from a parental perspective, but also just kind of how they live their life outside of being parents. So I would say they've been the top inspiration from me for, this first kind of part of my life for sure.
All right. What is your driving force / motivation?
Yeah, good question. So as far as coaching, so I think, it's been my experience, and I think probably just about everybody's experience, that the 4 years you are in college is, 4 of the most important years in terms of, growing as a person. There's a lot of room for growth. That growth could be positive. It could also, unfortunately, could sometimes be negative. So kind of my motivation is to use coaching, use sports, use competition to hopefully drive that growth for the student athletes that I'm lucky enough to work with, drive that growth in a positive direction. They should walk out of college in 4 years feeling like they're, better equipped to handle the world, but also just better people in general. And then of course, through sports that leads itself to a lot of opportunities in terms of having, creating lifelong memories. Really kind of the competition and excitement side of things is super prevalent in sports as well. So for me, it's kind of the perfect combination of being able to make an impact in people's lives at a time period in which they are open to having an impact being made on them. Super important 4 years. And then also you get the benefit of, being kind of involved in the competition side of things as well.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely relate to some of that, at least on some of the things that I go for professionally. What is your favorite aspect about sports and why?
My favorite aspect about sports, is kind of going off of my last question, is the competition factor. So I'm very driven by, even in the days kind of leading up to a game or, a golf match or event or whatever it is golf wise, trying to figure out the best ways to win. That's, not the only goal in sports, but it's one of the big ones for sure. So that, and there's so many different things that go into that. There's the strategy piece, but then you also got to have a good foundation in terms of, the ethics and morals that your program is built upon. So just for me, the number one thing I like about sports is everything that goes into kind of trying to get that end result of hopefully, winning more than you lose. Yeah, it's definitely something that I really enjoy. So I would say that's probably my favorite thing is probably just kind of the competition side of things.
Okay. What are your favorite hobbies?
Favorite hobbies. So I'm a sports person. So pretty much all of, or most of at least, my hobbies are going to be have something to do with sports. If I'm not playing them, and I guess I'm not these days, I'm not playing them quite as much as I used to when I was younger. I'm not playing them, I'm watching them. I'm involved in them in some capacity. So, basketball and golf are the sports that I coach now, but certainly, pretty much every other sport I will enjoy to sit down, watch a game, kind of get involved in it. So I'm a sports person through and through. Most of my hobbies are gonna have something to do with sports. It would be rare to see me get super involved in something that doesn't at least have that kind of aspect to it.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that for sure. Have you played any other sports besides basketball or golf?
I did, yeah. So growing up, I played soccer through 8th grade. So I was pretty involved in that for a good while. It was decent. I never had a left foot. I was very right-footed, so I was much better at playing right outside midfield than I was at any other position on the field, because you pretty much only need your right foot to play that position. So I played soccer through 8th grade, and then I also had a short baseball career. I think I stopped playing in 5th grade, maybe. I was okay. Certainly not a prodigy or anything like that, but yeah, two sports that I played while I was younger, but then stopped before I got to high school. But still, two sports that even though I stopped playing, I still enjoy kind of watching and being involved in to this day.
Okay, and then what is outside of basketball and golf? What is your favorite sport? I guess
Outside of
I should clarify to play and then to watch.
Yeah, good. So because that was going to be two different answers for me. So to watch, I would say football. I never actually played it myself. I never actually played a down of competitive football growing up. I never played football, but still, I would say next to basketball, probably that would be my favorite sport to watch. And even though I never actually played it. And then as far as playing, one sport that I haven't mentioned yet today that I think is pretty underrated is tennis. So growing up, we lived about a mile from my high school growing up, and they had some pretty nice tennis courts there. So my brothers and my dad and I would get pretty competitive over the summer about going out there and playing tennis. So I really like playing tennis. I wish I actually got to play more often. But that's a good sport as well that I think is kind of underrated. I think pretty fun to play.
All right, going into the next segment of questions. First, what is your favorite sports team?
My favorite sports team. So growing up in Michigan, I'm a fan of all of the Detroit pro sports teams, which over the last, 10 or 15 years has been kind of a mixed bag, not necessarily a ton of success. The Lions, Pistons, Tigers, Red Wings, I guess, but I've never been super big into hockey. And then also college-wise, growing up, I was a U of M fan, University of Michigan. So U of M football, U of M basketball. So you add up those 5 teams. None of my teams have won a championship since I was 10 years old. So it's been it's been frustrating. It is frustrating at times, especially some of those teams. But yeah, those are the teams that I kind of roll with as all of my Michigan teams.
Okay, if you could invite 3 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would you invite?
It's a good question. So I think first of all, let's say, obviously this will never actually happen, but let's say it actually did. I think you got to take full advantage of the situation. And I think you should be inviting probably 3 people that are dead. In theory, I could invite Michael Jordan, but he's still alive. Like in theory, I probably never will, but I could have dinner with him because he's still alive. So all 3 of my people are going to be people that are dead. So kind of looking at different time periods and looking at people who I think are interesting in multiple different ways. First person I'll say is like Ben Franklin. Kind of was around in the time period when the country was just getting formed. So he'd have good perspective on that. And then also, one of the great inventive minds of, probably our country's history, maybe number 1. Number 2, I'll say Martin Luther King Jr. Obviously, again, super important time period in our history. And I think, unfortunately, he probably still had a lot to give that he wasn't able to. So I think he would be super interesting to invite to kind of hear what he had to say about things. And then third, I got to get at least one person from the sports world. So I'll go with Muhammad Ali. One of the great athletes in world history, kind of regardless of sport, but then also outside of sport, was just a super interesting individual. So I feel like he would be another interesting person to invite. So those would be my 3 picks. I don't know. It'd be an interesting dinner, I guess. But
I'd say so.
Hit some different time periods and get some different perspective on things. So that would be those would be my picks.
All right, real cool. Going on to next question is, if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be?
So this may be a little bit of a cop-out answer because I'm going to say multiple different places, but one trip that I have not gotten to make yet that I would like to do someday would be just kind of like a Europe trip where you're kind of hitting a lot of the different big cities, kind of going to France, Italy, Spain, Germany, kind of those big places. So that's multiple different places. So I guess maybe that's kind of a cheating answer. I don't know.
Oh, that works. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so that's one of the trips that I would like to do that I haven't gotten to do yet. So that would be my answer, would just be kind of a broad Europe trip.
All right. What is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is, I would say, Forrest Gump. I think it's Forrest Gump's got a little bit of everything. It's got aspects of all different genres. Whatever you're looking for, you're going to kind of be able to find it in Forrest Gump. And then obviously, excellent acting and everything that goes along with that. So I've always really enjoyed Forrest Gump. I could watch it, anytime, any day. So that would be probably my number one pick.
I think a component of Forrest Gump that I love is the all of its references in American history.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything for sure.
Mm-hmm. Have you traveled outside the country? If so, where?
I have. So kind of in order. So I've been to Canada, which growing up in Michigan, that's not really a big deal because pretty much everybody goes to Canada at one point or another. I've been to Canada. I've been to Ireland. That was cool. I've been to Hawaii. I know that Hawaii is a part of the United States, but kind of outside of the continental United States. In a lot of ways, it's kind of its own country. But so I've been to Hawaii a couple times. And most recently, I've been to Argentina with the men's basketball program here at AU. So that was a really great trip. So starting to make the rounds. Still got some more places that I want to go to eventually, but I think I'm off to a pretty decent start.
So I just realized, you being from Michigan, you'll probably understand why this is funny. If someone's ever asked me if I've been outside the country, the correct answer is yes, I've been to Windsor, Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's that's what I'm saying. In Michigan, yeah, you've been to Canada, great. Everybody's been to Canada. So it's it's pretty convenient.
I've been less than a mile into Canada, and that's it.
Yep. Yeah, it's not too hard to get to.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show. So I got a couple. My number one favorite, my original favorite, has been The Office, which I know these days is super cliche to say, but for good reason. I think it's it's my favorite. I think it's a great comedy, especially kind of the first 5 seasons or so. And then my other favorite, Game of Thrones. So the first 6 seasons of Game of Thrones were, incredible. And then unfortunately the last 2 seasons they just weren't on that level, and it's still very frustrating. But like I said, those first 6 seasons were pretty much unmatched. So those are my 2 favorites. Both shows were kind of better at the beginning and middle parts of the show than they were at the end, which that's unfortunate and frustrating, but it is what it is. So yeah, those would be my 2 favorites.
Okay. If you could have any animal as a pet, what would it be?
So my favorite animal growing up, and I think probably still to this day, is are wolves. I've always thought that wolves were really cool. So I would really like to have like a wolf as a pet, or even like wolves usually travel in packs. So maybe I could have obviously this is theoretical. Maybe I could have like a pack of wolves. I think that would be cool.
Okay.
And obviously then the next closest thing to a wolf is probably a husky, which a husky is something you actually really could have realistically. So moving forward, I definitely got my eyes on getting a husky. I've always thought that they were really cool. So that would be, wolf would be a realistic or an unrealistic scenario, or pack of wolves or whatever. And then husky maybe my second best option after that.
Okay. What is the strangest nickname you have?
The strangest nickname I have, I don't necessarily have a ton of nicknames. I don't know that my name really lends itself to excellent nicknames. So I don't know that I have a great answer for that one. That's not I don't even know what I would say. People usually just call me Carter. So yeah, okay. Unfortunately not a great answer on that one.
All right. And then what is your favorite candy?
My favorite candy has always been Skittles. So one kind of unique, strange thing about me, I don't like chocolate,
Okay.
which I know that puts me in the pretty extreme minority. I don't know why. I just don't like the taste. I never have growing up. I still don't. Um, so yeah, that kind of limits my options, obviously, candy wise. So Skittles have always kind of been my favorite, kind of my go-to gas station, whatever. So Skittles would be my answer on that.
And I'll say that when it comes to candy, I've always looked at the chocolatey candies and the sugary fruity candies as two entirely separate classifications.
Right. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that they are. Yeah, for me, I don't even like chocolate, so I've hardly ever even had one of those chocolatey side of things. But yeah, obviously that kind of cuts it in half at least.
If they one, I mean, sometimes I want like that, something rich like chocolatey or peanut buttery, but sometimes it's nice to get some candy where you don't need like a drink to go with it.
Right. For
But
sure. 100%.
so to follow up, do you have a particular kind that sticks out as far as Skittles go?
Normal and sour are both very good. Sour is dangerous because if you have too many of them, sometimes it could become a little too much. Normal is, I'd probably say normal Skittles would be my favorite, but sour is
Mhm.
also very good as well. And there's other ones kind of even beyond that, but I would say those would be my top two.
For sure. Going into the next segment of questions, we um, even though the men's golf head coaching role is, this is your first year in this role, you've actually been at AU for 4 years. So
Right.
what sticks out as your favorite memory so far?
As far as just my time at AU,
Yeah.
yeah, I think probably I would say we've had some really, really good moments on the court. And it would be tough for me to really single out one of those. But I think I mentioned this already earlier, the trip to Argentina we took was a really, something that I'll probably always remember. I know at that point a lot of the guys hadn't been outside of the country. So to get to not only get to go to Argentina in the first place, which is a cool place to be, but to get to go with the guys in the program, that was a great experience. That would probably one thing that I could single out would be maybe the most memorable thing for me. Even though we have had a lot of good moments on the court as well, but it'd be tough to single out just one of those that I would kind of pick as my top. So I'll go with the trip to Argentina.
All right. So since you've been here and you've actually been here longer than I have, tell when you're talking to student athletes, or it or you could even go with the approach of not even for people who are just general students that might be interested in AU. What's your recruiting pitch? What's your sell for AU?
Yeah, so AU, something that we say within the basketball program, and I've been kind of stealing actually lately, and I'm kind of carrying it over to the golf program. AU is not the right place for everybody. There's certainly a good number of high school students in Indiana and above and beyond that wouldn't necessarily, fit into AU. Some people don't want the Christian atmosphere, that type of thing. But for the right person, for somebody who feels like they do fit at AU, it can be a really special place. And I've seen that, I've been at AU long enough now to, I just finished my 4th year. So that means I've been here long enough to, within the basketball program, have seen guys grow from what they were as freshmen to what they now are as juniors or seniors or graduated already even. It's a place where you can create a lot of memories. It's a place where you can have a really good experience, but it's also a place that's gonna do a great job of shaping you and helping you walk out if you're as a better man, as a better person. So yeah, if you feel like you fit here, then I would consider it extremely strongly, because it doesn't get too much better in terms of a lot of the things that we have to offer. And for the right person, it can be a really special place.
All right. So what is the coaching philosophy you carry?
Yeah, so golf wise, I'm looking forward to just kind of building the program, both numbers wise, but then also success wise. I'm taking over a program that in previous years has had a lot of success. Actually, there's won multiple conference championships. I've been out of the country club a good amount myself this summer, and have run into a number of AU golf alums who were very successful during the time here, won conference championships. So I'm looking forward to kind of bringing the program. We got to grow numbers wise, but we also have a lot of room to grow in terms of starting to get up and compete with the top teams in the conference. And I don't see any reason why we can't start to do that within the next couple of years. Golf is a sport where if we add in, quality golfers in addition to the guys that we already have in the program, then we can start to get up with the top teams in the conference pretty quickly. So that's kind of my goal moving forward over the next couple of years, is to start returning AU golf to its former heights for sure.
Okay, and you've probably covered a lot of it already, but maybe there's something else on what you would like the program to accomplish.
Yeah, so going off of that question, my previous answer, looking to over the next couple of years to kind of start to return us to being one of the top teams in the conference like we have been previously. But then kind of even more specifically than that, looking for guys who are looking to kind of do things the right way. We have good golfers, and we'll continue to recruit good golfers, and that's great. That's one of our goals. But we also want to have people who are, even outside of the golf course, in the classroom, as students, as family members, as friends, that are, quality individuals, quality human beings. And certainly we're hoping that you come out by the end of your senior year, you come out kind of even better off in those areas than you were when you entered campus as a freshman. So that's, in addition to all the golf stuff, which is great, and that's a big part of it as well. Something we're definitely focused on is helping to grow the young men into being even better 4 years after they step foot on campus their freshman year.
Okay, and then finally, when someone comes across any of your student athletes, what do you want first to come to mind?
Yeah, so good. Yeah, again, kind of just going off of my previous answer. Looking for people who are looking to just, make that next right decision. I guess it would be another way to put it. Nobody's going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody's ever, walked the face of the earth who's ever been perfect. But I think when people run across AU golfers, whether that's in the classroom, whether that's on campus, I want there to kind of be, if that's one of the first things that you learn about that person, like, oh, his name is so-and-so and he plays golf at AU, that should be kind of one of the first assumptions, hopefully, that the other person is making. It's like, oh, he plays golf at AU. This is somebody who's generally, going to be a good person, going to try to do things the right way, going to be somebody I can trust on, count on. We're not always going to be perfect in those regards, but we can make a lot of progress towards those goals. So that would be something that I would want to be thought of for the guys who are in our program for sure.
All right. Well, I think I've covered the questions I wanted to. Ravens fans, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow along with the Spotlight Ravens series and any more content we may be putting out on YouTube. Coach Collins, thank you again for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.